Good evening and welcome to Feedback. This evening we'll be speaking with Dr. Diane Reinhard, President of Clarion University. Also my weekly update on the presidential elections and a little bit of an update about charitable giving. That's all coming up tonight on Feedback. Good evening and welcome to Feedback. As I said, coming up a little bit later, we'll be speaking with Dr. Diane Reinhard, President of Clarion University. That should be pretty interesting. But first, as promised every week, since we only have one show this week because of our election coverage last night, I said that every week I'll give you the update on the presidential election. So here's sort of my synopsis of what happened. Last week was the debates up there in New Hampshire. Let's talk about the Democratic debate. Not really a whole lot to talk about. Both candidates pretty much the same on a lot of the issues. As I've been saying a long time, Bill Bradley really coming out is maybe the front runner in this. Obviously, Gore still listed as the front runner, but that should be a very interesting campaign. That's something that you're going to want to watch. Even though the debate was boring, I think the race is going to turn out to be a lot more interesting. Then the next night, the Republican debate. Well, no George W. Bush. He was not at the debate because his wife was receiving an award from her alumni association, so he said that that was much more important to him. That may also be a little bit of a campaign ploy. You might want to not always take those things at face value. Think of that just a little bit more. But then again, it might be, I don't know, speculation. But Steve Forbes and Alan Keyes and I believe Gary Bauer took the chance to make a little jab there that George W. Bush was not at the debate. So that was almost the only interesting thing that came out of that debate. A lot of talk about taxes. There was a lot of talk about the flat tax. As you know, Steve Forbes had proposed the flat tax when he ran 4 years ago. That's really all there was with that debate. Still very early, of course, but trying to shape the New Hampshire primaries coming up early next year. And the other story that caught my attention this week was in Monday's paper. And it was just in the brief section of the Post-Gazette. It was just a very small story. And the title was Charitable Giving Rose 16% in '98. And as you might remember, last week we were speaking about volunteering in America and how volunteering really isn't happening as much as it used to, that people are just, because of the good economy, donating, and not donating their time, but donating money. Well, this study sort of proves that. Salvation Army was the most favored organization in '98 and raised $1.2 billion in cash and donated goods. And it says, there's a quote here, while there's an increase in giving, there's also an increase in need. That may be sort of a little speculation that people aren't getting out there and actually volunteering. As we were saying last week, due to the good economy, we were talking with an EMT last week, and he was saying that they always need volunteers because he's working extra shifts there because of the problem of volunteers. So you might want to think about that next time you write a check to the Salvation Army, which is good. You might also want to go out there and do some work for them at the Salvation Army. So that's what I noticed this week. I thought that was a pretty interesting story. Of course, the presidential stuff, I gave you that. We'll be talking about that, I'm sure, throughout the next few weeks. John McCain coming out as a much more outspoken in the Republican Party, so he should be interesting, and as I've always said, watch Bill Bradley. So that's that. That's what I had to talk about with you today. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Dr. Diane Reinhard, Clarion University President, will be joining us after this on Feedback.
On their own. Uniting parents and children is an important part of the life of a community. Stand for Children encourages people to make a personal commitment to stand for the health of children. 300,000 Americans marched in Washington, D.C. last June to support Stand for Children Day. Stand for Children seeks to lift the belief that children need our help to stand.
Yeah! Yeah! Who's the man? It's a birthday. I'm the man. It's a birthday.
Exercised lately?
Go for a mouthful. Go for the fun. Go for cake. Cakes are for everyone. Just one stack is what it takes. And it's Gopher cakes. Open wide, stuff your face. There's always room for more Gopher cakes. Empty the box, never load. Eat those Gopher cakes till you explode.
Exercised lately?
Till you explode.
Sad, looking back now, the things you go through in life. Scary. The worst thing about being on welfare was at Christmas time. I couldn't get my kids what they really wanted. I had to get a better life for my girls and myself. I got off welfare. I got a good job. Makes me the happiest mother in the world. I live for my girls.
We're not asking you to hire everyone on welfare, just one.
All right, welcome back to Feedback. As I said, joining us this evening here on Feedback is Dr. Diane Reinhard, Clarion University President, and thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Mark.
Glad to have you here.
Well, I'm delighted to be here.
You said, when was the last time you were on TV5?
I think it was a couple of years ago. I haven't been on for the last couple of years.
All right, maybe we can get you as a regular, have you every once in a while.
I'd be pleased to.
Okay, let's start out with, let's talk about you in this first segment. What's your background?
My background is education. I started my career in education as an elementary school teacher, and I was the first in my family to go to college. And the reason I went to college was because I had a third grade teacher that made such a difference in my life. So that's how I started in education. And after I taught kindergarten, first grade, and third grade, I went on to graduate school and became very interested in educational research. And so my master's is in educational research, and my doctorate from Ohio State is in that area as well. I went from there to Washington, D.C. in sort of a postdoc program that was called the Washington Interns in Education, not in the President's office, I might add, but it was associated with the National Institute of Education at that time. And then I went to the University of Oregon, where I was a faculty member, and became interested in administration. I was an associate dean, assistant and associate dean there. From that job, I went to West Virginia University, where I became dean. And I also served as acting president of West Virginia University. And it was at that time, since I was just doing it for a year, and I wasn't interested in the position, I had a chance to think about the role of a president and whether or not I would like it. And it turned out, much to my amazement, that I did enjoy the role. And so after I went back to the deanship, I started thinking about perhaps becoming a university president. And the way in which you sort of apply for a job, that kind of a job, you have to sort of be nominated. And I was nominated for the presidency at Clarion, and I believed that Clarion had a good academic reputation. And so I decided to submit my application. And then over a course of a year, where they look at references and they visit the home institution, I was delighted to be asked to serve as president. And that my appointment began in June of 1990, so I'm in my 10th year.
Oh, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Wisconsin.
Oh.
A small town in Wisconsin, Watertown, very much the size of Clarion.
So this is kind of like home, then, isn't it?
It is. It is. I love the size of Clarion. I think Clarion's a wonderful community, and I like the size of the university. Most of my career was at large research universities, and you really needed to. You couldn't spend as much time with students or faculty, and so this is really a great size university.
Okay, you said you were on the faculty at a university. What were you teaching?
I was teaching educational psychology, measurement and educational evaluation and research methodology.
So you run the gamut here. You've been everywhere across the country. What favorite place you've been?
I think
University-wise?
every place has its special qualities. The Northwest is a lovely place. I liked West Virginia, and I liked Northwestern Pennsylvania. So it's been a delightful experience for me, not only to be exposed to different kinds of universities, but also different kinds of communities.
So you've been here 10 years. You're going into your 10th year.
That's right.
What's been maybe the crowning achievement or your favorite achievement of things that you have helped to bring to fruition here at Clarion?
Well, I believe that any university, first and foremost, is known for the quality of its faculty and the quality of its programs. And I think that, I guess one of the things I'd be most pleased about is the number of faculty that we've hired since I came here, and a large proportion of our faculty have retired, and so we've replaced a number of faculty, and the quality is outstanding. And I think that the tradition that exists here as far as teaching and working with students being the top priority is something that the faculty who have been here for a while and new faculty have in common, and I think that that's very important. And when we look at things like specialized accreditations, we continue to achieve very prestigious specialized accreditations, and that's very important because it's not just me saying we're good, you know, it's a group of professionals coming in and looking at the quality of our faculty, the quality of our students and our curriculum, and saying it represents what is the cutting edge of a profession nationally.
Being that Clarion is part of the state system of higher education, how much leeway does that give you to really control the university, or is it a lot governed by the Board of Governors?
Well, university presidents are expected to wear a couple of hats. You know, one is to serve as an advocate for an individual institution, as I serve for Clarion, and the other is to be a good university president for the whole state system. And so we're engaged in developing policies that'll cut across all institutions. There is a lot of leeway that is given to the individual institution, but you still have to have the local council of trustees, for example, approve new programs, and then you have to have it also approved by the Board of Governors. In July, we had the major and international business, and that went through our local council of trustees, but it also had to go through the statewide Board of Governors. And I think that more and more the Board of Governors is trying to steer universities in one way versus the other.
Okay. Take us through a normal day for you. If I don't know if that exists, I don't know if that exists for anyone, but maybe if you had that idyllic normal day, what would it be?
Well, anybody who is interested in becoming president of a university has to have the ability to go through long days. Normally my days are quite long. Most of evenings I have something planned. If it's not within the university community, it's working with potential donors that may want to give money to the university. I'm delighted to say that a couple of weeks ago we had an anonymous donor provide over $513,000 for a scholarship program at this university.
That's great.
So a big part of what I do is work with donors and special friends of the university. And I'm also in Harrisburg a lot. So I'm out of town working with various constituency groups, and that's a part of my normal role. So often what I do is put in a full day at the office and then go travel somewhere in the evening or travel early in the morning. So it's a wonderful role. It's a great role. It's probably the only role where they pay you, where you can learn so many different things. You know, I attend as many performances and lectures as I can, and they're often outside of the field that I know a lot about. So it's a constant in-service for me. It's really it's a wonderful role.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more with you, but we're going to first take a break, and we come back, talk a little bit more with Dr. Diane Reinhard, and also talking about some issues that affect the university community after this.
Introducing new frequent phone hours.
Use the phone just 8 hours a week and get this free phone cradle. Use it 12 hours and get a speakerphone.
Use it 15 hours and get this cool headset.
Or stay on the phone 20 hours a week
And get a pasty complexion.
flabby body, and a great new nickname at school.
Exercised lately.
I like all my friends to be there. I want my mother to be there. My hair to be done so beautiful. A lot of music, a nice blue dress. I want to be able to every single person that goes there. Furniture, I want to have a nice funeral.
Every day, 10 children are killed by gunfire. Help stop the violence. Call 1-800-EVER-EVENT for free information. Not one more lost life. Not one more grieving family. Not one more.
It's not just about making plans. It's about making a difference. Taking interest, not just it. At Edward Jones, it's about more than investing. It's about knowing you.
My every hope, my life, my world, it all begins with a dream.
Edward Jones, investing in you and your dreams.
In Clarion, see Gary Martin, located on Main Street. Phone 226-7896.
All right, and we are back here with Clarion University President Dr. Diane Reinhard. Once again, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Let's go back to talking about you a little bit, saying put a lot of miles on the car. Do you have any time for recreation? Did you get to sit back maybe on the weekends and have some fun?
Well, in fall, weekends are pretty well booked as well. You know, there are some times when I, during break, for example, I normally spend the winter holidays in Florida. I love to read, and so if I have free time, I'll try and read. And I recently bought a little cottage up on Finley Lake, which is in New York. And of course, I have this wonderful dog that whenever I have a chance, I try and give Maggie a walk.
Yeah, I see you brought her here tonight.
I did.
Tell us about Maggie. I know, like, I've seen you driving around the campus or around town, and I've seen the dog in the car, and I was, in fact, talking to someone, oh, who you have on the show tonight? And I said, oh, I have Dr. Reinhard on. And they said, oh, ask her about the dog. So, tell us about Maggie.
Well, Maggie is 5 years old, and she grew up on Clarion campus, on the Clarion campus. And of course, for the last 2 years, I've been down in the new residence, but the first 3 years, she was in Moore Hall, and we lived upstairs, but she would always attend all the meetings. And so a lot of people think of her as the unofficial mascot. She's a lovely Cocker Spaniel, and I've really enjoyed having her. I was very pleased she was a gift, and my first dog, so I didn't know if I'd like dogs, but sometimes I bring her to the office, and she likes that. She's a very social animal.
That's fun. That's great. Well, let's say that there's some prospective students watching us now, maybe trying to decide where to go. What's the sales pitch? Why come to Clarion?
Well, I think you come to Clarion because of what I talked about before. First and foremost, the quality of the faculty, the fact that we have programs that are nationally accredited, the fact that we are doing so many things to integrate technology with learning, and I could have a lot of examples of that, and that's what students need if they're going to succeed in the next century. I think we're doing more and more in global education. That's got to be a part of what a student's education is about. And all of that is done with what I think is the Clarion, the Clarion attention people get at Clarion, the personal attention that students receive. And so I think that that's really important. And it's a hallmark of this university, the individual attention that faculty members give to students, and that hopefully everybody gives to students.
Well, I'll give my pitch. I can say that's true. When looking around at schools, really pick Clarion because of TV5, what I'm doing here, the ability to do the show. They gave me the chance, and faculty is really wonderful.
Right.
So, I think
our communications department is highly regarded.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot in the field. Maybe moving a little bit off of campus. This weekend, we heard that Penn State now is going to be calling mommy and daddy when students get in trouble. maybe for drinking or things like that. Now I hear that Clarion does some, do they do that?
We do some of it. If there's a serious violation of alcohol issues and abuse on campus, you know, we do notify parents. And it's only recently, given the Buckley Amendment, that you were able to do that. But it is a delicate balance, as the article sort of seemed to indicate. But my worst nightmare is having to call a parent and somehow break the news to a mother or father that their son or daughter has died. I'm very concerned about underage drinking and binge drinking nationally, within the Commonwealth, and at Clarion University. I think it's something that we need to continually address. We have programs, we have educational programs. I know that on Friday, for example, I'm meeting with the Senate Executive Committee over lunch, and we're talking specifically about this topic. We have 2 reports that we're going to be reviewing. Last year, a group of students in business surveyed students on campus. One of the things that they asked students is, would you not drink as much if in fact you knew that if you got in trouble drinking, your parents would be notified, and a lot of them said that they would drink less if in fact there was that fear. But it's a very complex problem. It is not something that's going to be easily solved at any university. And although we have been blessed so far, I really worry about binge drinking. And one of the things I'm particularly interested in is trying to come up with what is the counterpart to a designated driver for what is everybody's responsibility to see that they stop someone when you know they are drinking really too much. Right. And they may be, it may be possible for them to be having alcohol poisoning.
Right. We also, I heard this weekend what University of Pittsburgh is doing, and I think this is funny, I guess. I believe the University of Pittsburgh police station is across from a bar, so they have these 2 rather large speakers, and they're going to be playing classical music, Mozart, I think, and I believe that they're going to try to curtail drinking with that. I mean, I don't know if that's really something that Clarion would want, but I mean, what do you think of that?
I mean, putting it up outside, I don't, you know, there's been some interesting research and some speculation on the values of classical music, say, for example, with unborn children. You know, I don't know the degree to which there is empirical evidence that classical music versus hard metal would contribute to more or less drinking, but we also don't know what the answers are. Right. And so I think the biggest issue is saying recognizing that it occurs on every campus, and how can we use the best thinking of students, because so much of it has to come from the student peer involvement in this problem for anything to really be successful.
Which is always maybe sometimes a difficult thing, peers. So you're saying there's some educational programs. What programs are out there on university?
Well, we do have, you know, John Postlewaite has an educational program on our campus where he works specifically with students. We have tapes, we have other kinds of programs that we use. And we have some special programs that we use, say, for example, with athletes and with other groups, where the way in which they've tried to deal with it is to essentially bring in the lawyers and say, all right, now, and they're lawyers who practice in this community who students need to go to if, in fact, they get in trouble. And they're the ones that provide actually the best sort of counsel to students, because they know that those are the ones that are going to be representing them. I think it's also important to know that, you know, your whole career, you said how tied in you are to communication. Well, what if your whole idea was to become a teacher or to become a nurse? I mean, if you're caught underage drinking, you know, you really have a difficult time. You will not get a job in this Commonwealth. And so it's not just it's nice to do. It has really major implications for your professional life. not the least of which is your choice of a career, or possibly getting someone, injuring someone.
Right. I don't think people realize how big. It's actually a major decision. This is not just something like, what am I going to do Saturday night? This could affect your life, really. Well, let's move off of that. I don't want to talk about drinking anymore. The future of the university. What's coming? You know, especially with the master plan. What's the big?
Well, we have some exciting things happening as it relates to facilities renovation. I don't know if you've been in Founders since it's reopened, but it is it's a lovely facility.
Yes, it is.
I think it's a beautiful building, and if you would have seen what it looked like before this renovation occurred, you would be amazed at what an absolutely charming building it is right now. We will be remodeling Davis, and our English department will be going over into that building. And we also will be planning for a move at the end of spring for our library, because that's our next big project, and our library services will be sort of in a couple of different locations for an academic year in two summers probably, but the result will be this absolutely gorgeous state-of-the-art library, and you may have seen the model in the library of the new, the architectural drawing of it.
Well, I've seen also the rec center.
Oh, the rec center! I just was there.
It's really, that's amazing. It's very nice.
It's really lovely. In fact, I just received a tour today, so I hadn't been in it before. It is a very impressive facility.
So Clarion's moving up now.
That's right.
And you know what? We are out of time. I'm enjoying this so much. Maybe we'll have you back sometime.
Anytime. Just let me know.
Yes, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Good.
We'll be back right after this.
Standing out from the crowd is easy when you stop in at Fashion Bug, located in the Clarion Mall. Whether you're looking for junior trendy, girls, or fashion for women, they have it all with many different styles. With our newly expanded shoe and accessory department, you're surely to find that special touch to enhance that new outfit. And if you have a fashion question, our experts are here to help. That's Fashion Bug, located in the Clarion Mall, just off Exit 9 of Interstate 80. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. till 9 p.m. Sunday from noon till 5.
Where have all the children gone? Long time passing.
Every day, 10 children are killed by gunfire. You can help stop the violence. Call 1-800-WE-PREVENT. Not one more lost life. Not one more grieving family. Not one more.
Gone to graveyards one by one. Oh, when will we ever learn?
News travels fast. That's why you need the speed and accuracy of a news team that brings coverage closer to home. Every Tuesday and Wednesday night, join TV5 News for Clarion's only live local newscast on television at 8. Tune in for the latest in regional, state, and national news. Plus, with our newspaper exchange partner, the Clarion News, teaming up to bring coverage closer to home every Tuesday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Clarion's only live local newscast on television at 8 is here on TV5.
All right, and we are back. We want to once again thank Dr. Diane Reinhard for joining us. Really interesting. Hopefully we'll have her back sometime. A lot of issues we didn't even get to discuss that were on the list to discuss, so maybe some other time. And also keep your eye on that presidential election that I've been talking about. We'll talk about it next week. Until then, we will see you next week on Feedback. Have a good week, everybody. See ya.